All right, let's talk about the work crisis here in the U.S. Everybody's complained, everybody's carried on with everything happening the past few years. We still have a thing where they say there's shortages of people, nobody wishes to work, and our society itself slowly breaks down, okay, because of this. All right. Now, what are the root causes? And most people complain that it's ridiculous. My brother was one of them. His fiance or third wife, whatever the hell she is an executive for McDonald's. And he told me up in New York State that they're paying people to work at McDonald's $17 an hour. And, she was complaining that even when they're paying them $17 an hour, these younger people just won't come into work. They'll work one day and disappear for 2 days. And to him, he's going berserk that they're paying that, which, back in the 80s, when I was in the military, you'd be out there doing PT and that, and anybody getting weak, the drill instructor would come over and start yelling at you. You could go back to your job flipping hamburgers at McDonald's. It was considered, fast food was considered the lowliest of the low back then. Okay? It's where you ended up if you were dysfunctional. But now to be paid $17 an hour, and that kind of shows you his age, that unnerves him, and he thinks it's outrageous and ridiculous. Well, I've come to find out myself, and also being over 60, looking for a part-time job. So I've had some recent experience after the health crisis in trying to find some sort of employment, but basically on a part-time level. As far as manufacturing is concerned, where I've worked all my life, they call me 3 times a week, okay? They cannot get anyone competent in that field, but I'll go on to that a little bit later. It's a little bit specialized. Skilled trades, skilled labor. So when you go looking for a part-time job, and I was told by some people during all this, once they changed the laws where, I guess in restaurants and that, they don't have to pay you. I heard a lot of people were reduced to working 2 hours a day or something once they were called back to work. And it was just set up to where they can get rid of employees they don't want. And like one person described what they've done, is they've narrowed down and cut the amount of employees that they need to a bare minimum. They've calculated this. They've reshaped their business where they can use less people. And some restaurants that done that, what they would do is they stayed open, but only through the drive-through. So once quarantine's done, they still have the restaurant where you have seating and tables and that closed, but you can still order your meals through the drive-through. Because think about it. You eliminated people having to do the dishes because they're packaging it all in styrofoam or whatever the hell, and out the door it goes. They don't have to wash anything other than the kitchen utensils, but they don't have to wash plates or anything in the diner. They don't have to have anyone on the counter. Okay, so that's a couple jobs there. They don't have to have anyone come and clean up, So they've eliminated several positions, and if they can still run their business by just having a drive-through window, they're never going to change. Because there was a popular restaurant that did this, and the people were complaining that, when I go to eat, I like to go in and sit down at a table. Well, you ain't going to eat there no more. And I've noticed this. I did take a part-time job with a big box home improvement store. And from what I could tell when I got there, what happened was they did increase the pay for the people in the store, pretty kind of significant, I'd say 15-20% more or something. But what they've also done is I found out, because the way I worked, I was scheduled to, like, when people didn't come in or requested time off, and I noticed that when they would have a slow night in the store, that they'd have a few of us go to closing, but like 2 hours before closing, just about all the different departments and people that, were in these different areas would be gone. And there would be nobody there. And of course, you get customers coming in wanting stuff. And I made the sorry mistake of wandering out after taking my break. And I noticed that all the employees are, so all these people are confronting me with these problems, wanting this. I said, let me go find someone. No managers, no supervisors. I walked around the whole store, the break room, conference room. There were no people in the building. There was like 6 of us in there, some cashiers and me, and a whole store full of people. Well, that's how they're getting away with it, and how they scheduled the work. I'd come in for 4 or 6 hours one day out of a 7-day period. And a lot of the part-time people, that some of them were a hell of a lot older than me, they had 20 years on me, were in there complaining, when they do this, only give me 4 or 6 hours a week, it costs me more in gas to drive here than, that I'm making. And it is, they schedule it, they pay people more, they schedule it, but there's less, you're not having the people in the store to serve you the extended hours, which I found that's how they get ahead, okay? And then another thing I realized, a lot of everything is, if you're ambitious and young, you can go far, you can advance yourself, okay? If you were ambitious, okay, so that's another thing. If you had a good work ethic and a drive, these companies will advance you and you can go up the ladder, all right? But at my age, where am I going? I don't see myself being an assistant manager in 10 years, if I'm still alive then, okay, So, and the weird thing is, the benefit package really wasn't that good. And there was some weird thing I didn't really understand, is you put a few bucks out of your paycheck into this fund, and it was some kind of fund that if you had an emergency, like say the transmission went out on your car, okay, which is about $1,000, $2,000 affair, and you can't afford it, they had some sort of employees emergency fund or something. I ain't quite sure how the hell it worked, but you could get money from that fund to pay for these unexpected bills in a crisis. And there was a lot of help, more designed for somebody that wasn't, let's say, financially responsible or established or had any kind of money or anything. It's kind of geared up to some weird form of socialism, is what I said. And they constantly gave us, for every holiday or whatever, a $15 gift card. There were meals arranged. There's a lot of food in the cafeteria, be it anything from sandwiches to pizza. It's kind of like they're kind of feeding you for free too, as part of a benefit or something. It was different. And then again, being older, a lot of people were complaining. There's a whole bunch of people my age in the same boat. We just want a part-time job to get caught up on our bills, because in realization, retirement isn't going to work, okay? Because you sure as hell didn't make nothing in your 401k investments over the past 40 years. And everything going up in price and taxes, and they tax you on everything, and the inflation, unless you're very well off and have like a pension coming in from somewhere, you have your Social Security and some sort of incomes, which very few people are set up like that. Nobody pays you a pension anymore. It's 401k, okay? If you're fortunate enough to be getting paid a pension from someplace, if you're old enough that's still covered by it, you might make out, and it's still difficult. But now you're seeing a lot of people like me, they're forced to go back to work, and the work environment is crazy. Now, a lot of people say that the young people don't want to work. Well, this is where it's a very complex thing, because you have to look at the education system, okay, and the way the schools are set up. Now, I had some experience there. I was doing some voluntary work in a grade school, okay, for a period of time here. And I noticed they had this whole thing set up to where nobody's telling the children that you must learn. It's the exact opposite. Everything is to keep everybody calm. Do not put pressure on anybody. Do not do anything, like sports and stuff. They don't have any type of competition or something to instill a drive to where you advance and improve. It's the exact opposite. It's like when things get difficult, everyone just smooth it over and back off. Avoid any type of dealing with, how was the term I'm going to use? Okay, adversity. Okay? In other words, I've noticed the children aren't told, when you're doing a lesson, you're responsible to write something or do something. They just kind of sit there, the teacher wanders around, half of them are staring up there, and they're supposed to be learning how to read the story and then write a little couple sentences, and they ain't doing anything. Then if you pressure them, okay, then they get all worked up and pissed off and everything else. And what they're doing is the education system is creating an environment where the children avoid and don't persevere. Okay, the whole thing is like the reverse. And we're getting generations of people that the minute you go to the job and anything gets difficult, okay, they back off. They either don't show up to work, they quit, whatever. And every single job that I've taken in retail sales or applied for, let me put it to you that way, applied for, give you a personality profile test. And that's any place, Walmart, any retailer, whatever, part of the application, they give you a personality profile test. And what it is a series of questions. Some of them try to give you, like they're giving you stock numbers and stuff and say, hey, somebody comes in looking for this, and they give you a series of questions to answer. And, some of them are, you just tell them, hey, it's my boss, go talk to him, and all this other stuff. And if these people aren't, I can tell what answer they want from the questions. A lot of people, if they put down there, hey, go talk to my boss or whatever, probably they're eliminated right there and then. They ain't going to hire them. Okay? Just from answering the questions. So, and then, if you're over 60, you get a lot of stuff. Because I was talking to some people, and one person, they called them in to interview them. And when they went to the actual interview, the guy doing the interview said, oh, God, you showed up. I had 4 other people scheduled, and they didn't even come in. You come in, you interviewed the individual and that. And she goes, well, do I have the job? Well, we'll get back to you. Never call them back. Or they're on the phone doing an interview asking about a job, and the person said, how old are you? And the individual said, I'm 61 years old. And they just hung the phone up on them. Okay? A lot of the jobs out there, and the ones that they'll hire me, it's just physical labor. It's just lifting shit constantly, fairly heavy, over and over again. And a lot of these jobs describe it. Can you lift 50 pounds continuously through the day up over your head, like to put it on a shelf? Okay? And all this other stuff. So there aren't really a lot of decent jobs out there, number one, and I believe there is, I can't prove it, but there is kind of an age discrimination to a degree, not too bad. And then let's go into my field, manufacturing. You have to be pretty good at math, geometry, some trig, and you're running high-speed machinery, usually making a precision part. You have to pay attention, be aware, and the only way you learn this is through experience and to have somebody training you. That's how I learned it. I did not just go to night school or get a paper going to college, and I guess it's 2 years now, or a year and a half, and you'll get a certificate, and they show you some of the basics. And that's not enough. It never is. You have to go to a company willing to hire you, and generally, you will start out at a low wage. And they go and they give you one task, and you complete it, learn to run a process. Then they move you on to something a little bit more difficult, and over a period of years, usually, like, that's why a lot of them will say 5 to 6 years experience, you should learn enough to where you can handle things yourself and deal with the problems. Again, now notice this, the problems. So going back, I was fortunate enough to find a company that I did work for, basically what they want me to do, because I told them I physically cannot do a lot of the things that I used to do when I worked here full time. I only want a part-time job, and we'll see how it works out. So I got a pretty liberal, open agreement with them. And basically all they need me to do is come in there in the evening, work for X amount of hours, half day, just to keep the machines running so they can get the product out to get it shipped on time. Okay, that's another thing. If you have time restrictions on your work, you can't have people standing around staring at the ceiling, staring at their phone, not paying attention, making product that's no good. Okay, I've seen this. I've only been doing it 2 weeks, and already I see the nightmare that's going on. And again, nobody learns, nobody strives to improve, okay, nobody gives a shit, okay, and they don't pay attention. You have to pay attention, you have to be aware, you have to concentrate on what you're doing to make precision parts. You can't go in there, just press a button and stand there and stare at the ceiling or at your phone. It don't work that way. And that's the problem. And actually these companies, once they start losing money with these people, they have no recourse but to fire them. So henceforth, there is always a need, and a very desperate need. And also, I found out, and this is going to carry on when we talk about powders and primers and that, I've also found out there is still complications with material, A, getting the material, and B, the quality of the material. It's like the guy was making this stainless steel part, and he said, we had some bars left over from the last run, and he goes, I put them in the machine, stuff cuts great, went right through it, we got the new batch of material, it's the same grade, same company, put it in there, he goes, it don't cut right. There's something about the blend of the steel that isn't quite correct, okay? The quality of it is shittier, all right? So you have that too, at least in manufacturing. In the retail and service, it's frightening. It's not that hard of a job if you know something about what you're selling there in the store, but these people don't want to, you can't go there if you can't interact with people, okay? And I've seen a lot of that with the younger people. They don't talk, they just point to something, and then when the person looks at it, they run away. It's insane. So yeah, we're in a world the trouble, because simple jobs are not being done correctly. We have a society that is not ambitious, that doesn't look at, it's kind of like it's an inconvenience for them to have to work. And they have that attitude no matter what they're doing. And this is different. Nobody takes pride in being able to perform a simple task, perform it right, and know that it's right. Strive to be there. See, this is what's missing. The work ethic, let's put it that way. That is what is missing in our society, and it's leading to what everything else just crumbling, and our society's collapsing because of it. Okay? So that's my thoughts on it, guys. If you like the content, subscribe, like the video. I got a Patreon, a link to my Patreon account down below. If you can send some support, great. And stay tuned, guys, and I'll still be around.